Hey everybody, welcome to the first video of what will be a dispersed series, and incidentally, will be my first ever build of a real armor model. Throughout the series, I will be building a model representative of every school from the world of the anime Girls und Panzer, a world in which brutal armored combat is conducted across Japan and on the decks of giant school ships, with live rounds as the renowned women's sport. Don't worry though, outside of environmental dangers, the battles are perfectly safe. The tank interiors are of course lined with carbon. These builds are generally representative, meaning that generally the subjects could plausibly belong to these schools, are an upgraded version of a vehicle known to be in inventory, or in some cases, especially the eventual complete build of the Order of Battle of Oarai, are screen-accurate models. In all these cases, the goal is to finish these subjects in plausible states relevant to the size and funding of the organization's tankery program, the tempo of their events, and whatever display that model happens to be placed on. For this model, I wanted to make sure that whatever my subject, the model would be cheap in the school tertiary. If I completely botched this first attempt at armor, I wanted to make sure I wasn't putting myself out a lot monetarily or kneecapping this project at a very key installment. So after perusing my local hobby shop, I found the perfect starter set for sale at a measly $10 in an old Tamiya Panzer II. This is a very straightforward build by a modeler who is pretty unfamiliar with these subjects and these techniques, so narration will probably be a bit short on this one. I hope you enjoy as I prepare Blue Division's Panzer II to take the field. Holes in the hull and deck that needed filling were first backed with sheet styrene and then filled with Tamiya putty before being sanded smooth. Rather than back the large crates, I opted to just paint the entire interior black. None of my decal sets had insignia for Blue Division, and by the time I was working on this build I had no means of printing my own, so I tackled this with stencils. I printed the insignia a bunch of times at the correct size on normal printer paper, then tried my best to cut the azul out. After spraying I had to clean this up. Then I used other prints as a guide to cut out layers of Tamiya masking tape. The letters are Tamiya deck tan, the red is flat red, and the blue is flat blue. Following Appreciated White, I painted the whole model with a custom mix that started with Tamiya German Gray and slowly added miscellaneous blues and a bit of white to get a color that looks, to my eye at least, a lot like the color seen on the Platts kit of this subject. I applied a panel line wash all over by mixing black and a little bit of burnt sienna artist oils, heavily diluting them with white spirit. The little daubs of this liner could be removed with a clean brush dampened with white spirit. Having lost my camera mount for a while and having nowhere to record, I'll quickly burn through what you guys missed. This match is supposed to have spilled over into a public garden based generally on this one picture I found online of Ashikaga Flower Park. The base is built on insulation foam sealed with Mod Podge and toilet paper on a commercial pine base from Hobby Lobby. The retaining walls stones were made from chunks of insulation foam textured with aluminum foil, painted with acrylic, dry brushed, and washed with a dark gray acrylic wash. I sprinkled the grass on with my fingers as I do not yet have an applicator. The dried leaves and foliage were from Woodland Scenics, secured with white glue, and the flowers are from various eBay sellers, also secured with white glue. The walkway was built from balsa, stained with oils, and the rail came from a brass rod. On the tank side of things, I washed the tracks with soapy water and then used a hot screwdriver to rivet them together. Then I sprayed with a black rattle can, slipping them on the model after that paint had dried, and building up layers of metallic dry brushing, then covering them with a general wash to match the rest of the lower parts of the tank. I chipped the whole thing with a fine brush, at first with a lightened version of the base color, along edges, walkways, and on work areas, then followed up with a Vallejo German gray. I mistakenly glued it down with white glue. This took forever to set, but seems to have mostly worked. I probably should have used epoxy here and will in future builds. Blue Division is a school based on national Spain, and their tankery program is unofficial. So I felt free to perhaps go a little bit overboard on the only weathering I felt confident on at this stage in a layered chip, which I think actually came out pretty well. The model isn't exactly correct. The version in the source material does not have the container on the left fender, but I think that addition falls pretty fairly into the plausible later addition territory. Perhaps this cup or demonstration match Elle and her crew are participating in this event is a multi-day and requires some extra stowage, or perhaps they're taking a page from Anzio's playbook and they need a way to carry around some cunning supplies.